Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whatever time you're tuning into this video, just make sure that it is good. My name is Game Boy Rob, and today is the day we have been waiting for months and months and months. Today is the day that we have all been anticipating, we've all been theorizing about and projecting and crafting and theory crafting and all this good stuff. That day is today. Technically it was actually yesterday, but I couldn't get out a video yesterday because I was busy working on the deck that I'm about to show you guys today, which is the first deck I have built myself in this Shurima expansion, or at least the first one I built that I'm like somewhat happy with, right? This expansion so far, these last 2 days have been extraordinarily fun. Some of the most fun I've had in this game ever. This expansion is incredible. Look at this gorgeous art of Shurima Azir standing over his newly constructed empire. Mwah. Glorious, beautiful stuff. But yeah, people are having a ton of fun. There's lots of crazy nonsense running around. There's lots of weird, stupid decks that are getting wins. There's lots of good decks that are not getting wins, that should be getting wins. And it's all it's really, really chaotic, and it's a lot of fun. The most popular champion for people to build decks around, or at least the one that seems to be doing the best, is Azir. There are Azir with Lucian running around getting wins. There is Azir with Hecarim, and the Shadow Isles and Shark Chariots going around getting wins. There is Azir in Mono Shurima with Renekton as a way to complete the Buried Sun Disc and, get Azir and Renekton to level 3. I've seen that deck running around. I just lost a game to Azir with Nasus with Darius. Turns out apparently Azir is the champion who is everywhere, which is why the deck that I am showcasing today is not Azir, but is this deck right here, which is Kindred and Nasus in a deck that is semi-built around the Undying. Now, if you're watching this video, you are probably familiar with the Undying, and you're probably familiar with the history of Undying decks and how they are generally pretty lackluster. And as time goes on, and as the meta settles, as the dust settles, haha, so it were, we will probably find that is still true. We will probably find that any deck with the Undying in it is probably still not gonna be a competitive tier 1 deck, and it's still not probably gonna be out there. You're probably not gonna want to grind to Masters with a deck like this, but nobody knows what you're actually going to grind to Masters with yet, right? No one knows what actually is the best deck. It's only day 2, right? Of Shurima. So in the meantime, while people figure it out, this is a great deck to have a lot of fun with. I think Kindred is one of the best, most well-designed champs, I think, from this new expansion. I love the way they work. I love the way they interact with the slay mechanic. They feel very fair, and they are very interactable if your opponent is smart. It is very difficult for one side or the other to just get a huge snowball effect with Kindred, which makes them good. Well designed, and I really like the way they are built. In case you don't know, the way Kindred works is the first time you slay a unit while they can see it, they mark the weakest enemy, and then at the end of the round, they kill that enemy. And then they level up when they see you slay the 2 units with their mark, right? Which means that if your opponent kills it themselves, or if your opponent has a board of 6 and replaces the marked unit, they can delay the Kindred level up. Now, Kindred, leveled up Kindred doesn't exactly, mean too much. When Kindred's level up, they say the first time you slay a unit each round, grant me +2/+2, and then the rest of the stuff is the same. They mark the weakest enemy at the round end, they kill them. So essentially when Kindred levels up, they just start growing and getting bigger and bigger, which mainly just means that they're harder to kill. It's essentially all it is. They're harder to kill, and you have to block it. You have to block them, which can matter because then you get easier slays, right? You get easier slays, and then you can mark stuff more easily. But for the most part, leveling up Kindred doesn't really matter. They're doing their thing whether they're leveled up or not. And then the other champion we have in here is Nasus, who cares much more about this whole slay mechanic, right? So for those of you who don't know, slay means you have to kill it. You get credit for slaying a unit if you kill it with basically anything. If you kill a unit with one of your units striking it, that counts as a slay. If you kill a unit with a spell, that counts as a slay. If you kill your own unit with like a Ravenous Butcher or a Bloodied Caretaker, that counts as a slay. So Nasus says, I have +1/+1 for each unit you've slain this game, which, as you can imagine, in a Shadow Isles deck like the one we're running, that can get pretty high. And then he levels up when he strikes for 10 plus damage, which is unfortunate. I really think I'm gonna be a little bit of a spoiler alert here. I think Nasus probably is one of the weakest champs to have come out from this this expansion. He's a little not quite there. And I think if he leveled up just by, you know, getting 10 slays, if he just leveled up for having 10/10, that could push him to a little bit better. But no, unfortunately, he has to strike in order to level up, which can be quite difficult, right? He has to strike and deal 10 plus damage in order to level up. And then when he levels up, he gets Spell Shield. Oh, and he has Fearsome, by the way. He still has Fearsome. When he levels up, he has Spell Shield. And then same stuff. He still has +1/+1 for each slain enemy. And then enemies get -1, -0. Everything gets on your opponent's side gets smaller, right? Gets hard. You get harder to kill. Enemies deal less damage. Things get harder. It's harder to block Nasus. Yada yada yada. The important part is he gets Spell Shield. And, you know, he gets tons of stats. He's probably, after you level him up, he'll probably be like an 11/11, 12/12, somewhere around there. And then he's got Spell Shield, and bada bing, bada boom. If you cast Atrocity on a target with 12 attack and Spell Shield, that's pretty good. Playing Atrocity on a unit that has 12 attack and Spell Shield is pretty good. Pretty good. So basically, that's the general strategy behind Nasus, is you get him big and then you Atrocity him into the Nexus. Yep, nothing terribly new. Why do we do this on Nasus instead of like They Who Endure? Well, it's because Nasus, if you can level him up, Nasus gets Spell Shield. So like that's a pretty good reason. Okay. Now what's the rest of this deck? I said it was an Undying deck, but it's not really centered around the Undying. When I first built this deck, it kind of was. But I realized that the Undying don't really need to be the centerpiece of this deck. We're sort of just using them as fuel. And what I mean by that is we have a lot of cards in this deck that slay our own units, right? We have cards like Rite of Calling, right? Which kills your own unit to draw a champion. We have cards like Glimpse Beyond, you know, kill your own unit. We have cards like Rite of Negation. This deck is one of the best users of Rite of Negation because we generally are going to have an ally that can, you know, we can just sacrifice to this. In a pinch, at like the end of the game, we can still use our mana gems, but we would generally prefer to sacrifice a unit. And then we've got this new card, Spirit Leech, which essentially is just a 4-mana 4/1 that plays a burst speed Glimpse Beyond on a unit. That's pretty good. And then we have also got this Rampaging Bakai, which is a very, very strong card. However, it is actually pretty difficult in the wrong deck. It is actually pretty difficult to get this requirement. So Rampaging Bakai is a 5-mana 4/6 with Overwhelm that says play if you've slain 4 or more units this game, an enemy and I strike each other, right? It just casts a single combat on itself and whatever enemy unit you want, which is, as you can imagine, quite powerful. This is just deal 4 to anything and then he takes their attack back. But getting slays is a bit harder than I think most people thought when we were evaluating these cards, you know, before they came out. Slaying can actually be pretty difficult, and getting this up to a decent number of slays, up to 4 slays, in most other decks can be pretty difficult, but obviously in this deck, that's no sweat, right? That's no challenge at all. And so yeah, that's the basic deck concept, is that we are trying to slay our own stuff so that we can activate Kindred, and then eventually get Nasus stacked up to the point where we can just throw him at the enemy Nexus, and if he's got Spell Shield, you know, what are they gonna do about it? You know, double flash freeze? Sure, right? And that is mostly the deck right there. We are also running a lot of removal, because remember, Slay doesn't have to be your own units, right? Slay can be your enemy's units as well, as long as you were the one killing them. So things like Vile Feast, obviously this kills it, you know, in an ideal scenario, this will kill something and get you sacrifice fodder. Ideal card for this style of deck. We are running three copies of Withering Wail, because as I said before, Azir is incredibly popular right now. There are lots of decks running around with lots of Sand Soldiers, and Withering Wail can be an absolute lifesaver against those decks. 2 Atrocity for obvious reasons, a couple of Vengeances, you know, because Lissandra also does exist, and killing an 8/8 with Overwhelm for 7, usually a pretty good thing. But there are lots of decks in which this, you know, matchups in which this sort of doesn't do anything. You know, because you don't want to use this on like a 4/4. You know, like you can use this on Renekton if you have to, right? But you generally would prefer to hit something a little bigger. And then we've got 1 copy of the box, because this, obviously Azir, right? All the little Sand Soldiers will get hit by the box all at once. But there are a lot of other scenarios right now in which the box can get a lot of value. There are a lot of cards that people are experimenting with that, like for instance the Hourglass that saves a unit and then resummons it again next turn. Well, that was a summon. The box will hit it next turn, and presumably whatever else they play in that turn, and the box will get additional value. And there are lots of other examples, like Entomb comes to mind. Anything that comes out of landmarks, like the Rock Bears and the Clockling and the Frozen Thralls, all those sort of things come out and get summoned at the start of a round, and the box can hit them, you know? So it's a bit of a flexible card. We're only running 1 of it because generally we need the healing, right? Withering Wail is a really important card and we need more of that. But the box, a bit of a sleeper, very powerful card right now. And then we're running 2 Ruinous Paths, because this is sort of a mid-range-esque sort of control deck, and we are going to need the healing. We need ways to heal and keep ourselves healthy and survive long enough for Kindred to get the value that they want, and get a bunch of slays on units and wait for Nasus to get really big. And so we need to not die in the early game and mid game, and sort of make it to the late game so that we can, you know, make it that way. Rite of Calling, I should mention, is a very important card in this deck. Rite of Calling essentially lets you activate a Kindred for free. If you play a Kindred and then spend all your mana and you have 0 mana left over and your opponent's like, yes, they haven't slayed anything, we're safe, I can play out my stuff. You, at the end of your turn, you just Rite of Calling onto like your Undying or a Cursed Keeper or whatever. Kindred sees you slay, they mark the enemy unit, you get to kill that enemy unit for free. Rite of Calling is very important in that regard. Something I want to mention, because I'm sure some of you will be curious about why I am not running this card right here, Sanctum Conservator. In case you don't know, this is an 8 mana 8/5 with Fearsome that says play. If you've slain 13 plus units this game, kill all enemy followers and then summon a copy of me. Whew. That is an incredibly powerful effect. However, getting 13 slays is incredibly difficult. In that last game, we ended the game. Both of us had like no health left, and we atrocity'd Nasus with like 13 attack. And if Nasus has 13 attack before he's leveled, that means you've only got 11 slays. So we were still 3 slays away from activating a Sanctum Conservator that game. And that generally is how that goes. You generally end the game before you get 13 slays. It's incredibly difficult to actually bring this guy online before the game is completely over. In a future hypothetical meta where every deck is like super control, like late game decks, like Lissandra decks that summon a bunch of followers, but it's other than that, it's like control up to that point, then yeah, sure, this will be really good. But that's pretty hyper specific, I'd say. That's pretty hyper specific and hard to get to. And right now, not the time for Sanctum Conservator. So unfortunate, but I've played this in like 20 games and I got it to go off like once. And yeah, and even then it got like denied. It got hit by Rite of Negation, right? And this is a skill, right? There's a skill called Conservator's Judgment, and that got denied by Rite of Negation. It was big sad. So I love it. Good card, amazing effect. It's too difficult to get 13 slain enemies. Even in a deck like this, that is just so hard. But and yeah, that's basically the deck right there. Let's get into some games, and I will show you guys the power of these two kind of probably sleeper champions. These are probably both going to be champions that are not going to be meta. Probably not. Maybe Kindred. Kindred maybe has a shot at being meta in like hyper control decks. Nasus maybe not so much, but let's see what we can do. Let's see what we can do. All right, so our first game is up against Trundle Lissandra. This is a good matchup for us. This is certainly a good matchup for us. Keeping the Undying. The Undying here is actually totally fine, right? We can just play Undying on 3. We can pass on 1, pass on 2, play Undying on 3, and like Rite of Calling and or Glimpse Beyond it. So honestly, well, okay, I didn't need 2 Glimpse Beyonds. I didn't need double Glimpse, but but honestly, this is totally fine. Okay, so our opponent goes for a turn 1 Frozen Thrall. So in 8 turns, he's gonna get an 8/8 with Overwhelm. Ooh, turn 2 as well. Spicy. Spicy. So that is a bit, that's just a bit terrifying. And I have, yeah, just what I wanted. I have the triple Glimpse Beyond, just what I needed.
A dark cloud.
Okay, there's Lissandra. My opponent has all the Frozen Thralls he could ever want. 1 on 6, 1 on 7, and 1 on 8. He's going crazy. We're just gonna glimpse our Undying, I think. I would like some cards that are not spells, you know? Preferably. Hey, look, that's not a spell. Ideal. All right, what you got, buddy? What have you got, friendo? Ooh, and there is our Kindred. Okay, he just goes for the open attack. That is totally fine. We'll take our Spirit Leech. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cards in hand. Perfectly fine. So, oh, when he passes, he spends no mana on turn 4. Okay, so we're gonna drop the Kindred. And we can imagine our opponent will go for the Draklorn.
It is time
Inquisitor.
to prove yourself, my warrior.
There he is.
I dare not serve any other, my lady.
So obviously he cannot lose his Lissandra. He cannot block with Lissandra right now, or at least he cannot let her die. If Lissandra dies, the Draklorn also dies. And see, this is what a lot of people feel trapped into doing when you play Kindred. When you play Kindred and you attack, your opponent goes, oh no, I can't block. If I block and he kills something, you know, something else will die because Kindred will get a free proc. And so they don't block. And then you just Rite of Calling and you kill something anyway, right? And then, uh-oh, this Lissandra's gonna die, right? Uh-oh, this Lissandra's gonna die. Now, we can't stop this Draklorn from just popping this Frozen Thrall and creating an 8/8. But we can kill Lissandra. And we'll have to settle for that. Now this feels pretty good as well. We can just Vengeance this guy. And this is why we're doing Vengeance, by the way. You just Vengeance the 8/8 and then Kindred will mark the 4/5. Now, if our opponent has a Glimpse Beyond, this might stink, right? I don't know if Lissandra decks run Glimpse Beyond, but if they do, if my opponent can just glimpse his own Frostguard Thrall or Entomb it, then I don't get, you know, I don't get to kill the 4/5 for free. And that would be unfortunate, but I think it's the play we still have to make. So we'll just go for the Vengeance. He does have an Entomb. He is actually running Entomb. Alright, so our Vengeance poofs. That's not ideal. He gets another one. He's gonna do that every turn too, unless I can somehow stop him. So we're gonna try again, but this time with Kindred's Spirit Journey. Oh. At least that was what I was gonna do. So I'm doing this now. I'm gonna Vile Feast now, because if my opponent, even though he might have a Troll Chant, and that's because if we wait until the damage happens, goes for a Flash Freeze. Goes for a Flash Freeze. Okay. So we have some options here. We could try to go for the Kindred Spirit Journey onto this, right? Which, or maybe onto the Frostguard Thrall, which would, you know, mark this. Or we could just glimpse beyond our own unit to mark this. And I think that's a bit safer. We do have a lot of cards in our hand right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if we play this, we'll go to 10 cards in hand.
Not yet. We must be patient.
I'm hungry.
I know.
I know. I think that's the play. I think we really need to mark this guy.
Never.
Because that way we won't get more, you know, Frozen Thralls coming at us next turn. Unless he has a second one in his hand, which would be quite unfortunate. But yeah, so at the end of this turn, this should... Oh, he actually does have another one in his hand. That's really bad.
Fear, love.
That's really bad.
Their pulse fades away.
Alright, so our Kindred levels up.
Next.
Which actually could matter here. But yeah, the bigger issue is that he's got a lot. He's got a lot of these thralls coming at me, dude. That is a lot of thralls.
Be still.
Be still. So if we go for Kindred's... Let's actually block one of those. If we go for Kindred Spirit Journey like this, this gets marked, which is not ideal. There's not really much we can do about it though. The bigger problem is Atrocity. If we do this, we lose to Atrocity. I don't think we have a choice. We could try to Atrocity his 8/3 as well, but I think this is a bit safer. I think the safest thing we could do is to Kindred Spirit Journey this one and then block this one with Kindred, which would stop the most damage and I think keep us out of range of Atrocity.
Its heart beats fast now.
It knows.
But right now we're sort of just dead to Atrocity right now. There's not a lot we can do about it. Okay. Looks like he probably doesn't have it, but I do say probably. He is still at 6 mana. Is that it? Oh, no, okay. So no Atrocity. No Atrocity from our opponent, so we might be able to continue on here. How big is my Nasus? Ooh, this Nasus is actually 10/10 right now. Hello. Hello, big boy.
I've seen the masks of the Kindred before.
All things see us on their periphery.
All things see us on their periphery.
Judgment awaits.
We're gonna put Kindred at the end because Kindred right now, whenever I slay for the first time each round, Kindred gets a big boost. You know, +2/+2. And so we want them at the end. We also want, yeah, we also want to, if we can, we'd like to avoid giving this guy our mark. But it looks like that is unfortunately what is going to end up happening. That's really okay. That is really okay, because now Nasus gets Spell Shield and we're the ones with the atrocity in our hand, right?
Never stops turning.
Which should basically be a victory for us. This should be game over, right? Because unless he has 2 spells that he can use at the speed he needs to, we can just atrocity his Nexus.
Ice to meet you.
Ice to meet you. I guess there's no real reason to wait, right? I'm trying to think if there's any reason not to just... Oh wait, do I actually have it? I was gonna say, there it is. Okay, I couldn't find it there for a second. I'm trying to think if there's any reason not to just do it right now. He does have 6 mana, which is potentially enough for double Flash Freeze, if that's exactly what's in his hand right now. But that's pretty unlikely, right? That's pretty unlikely. I think we just go for it while the Spell Shield is up. And that should be game. Oh, he could also have his atrocity in his hand, right? He could have an atrocity of his own. So I think we'll pass. We'll pass first, see what he wants to do. Because if I go atrocity now and he just responds with his own atrocity, that'd be pretty silly. That'd be pretty foolish, right? So we'll wait.
Gently.
Never.
Follow.
Your time is done.
Hmm.
9.
Hours.
So if we double Vile Feast here, what does our opponent do? What does our opponent do? He goes for a cold resistance. Alright, I think that's time. 8 mana. Probably no way for him to interact with this Nasus. Probably. It's always probably, right? There are things he could go like Flash Freeze plus Entomb, but nah, we got him. Easy game.
They will.
And that's really the one benefit of Nasus. That's the one thing that makes Nasus playable.
There the chase ends.
More lie ahead.
More lie ahead. That's the one thing that makes Nasus kind of playable, is the fact that yeah, he has Spell Shield and a ridiculously high attack stat, and you could just atrocity him into the Nexus. So yeah, on to game 2. Okay. More Lysandra Trundle goodness. Ugh. I think we're gonna do a full mull here. Keeping 1 Vengeance actually seems okay against this deck, right? I don't know. The Vengeance last time actually got wrecked by an Entomb. Yeah, I think it's safe to do a full mull here. Yeah. I'm glad I did. I am glad I did. I'm so glad I did. Wow. Fantastic. Alright, so this guy does not drop 2 Frozen Thralls on the first 2 turns, thankfully. He does not.
A dark cloud looms on the horizon.
Alright, so there's Lysandra. We'll just go for an easy glimpse here, prevent all that potential damage from our opponent. Now this does... Okay, I was gonna say this does make it so we can't play Spirit Leech next turn, but that should be okay. That should be okay. On 4. What do these guys have? What do these guys play on 4? Not much, right? I think it's actually safe to just play the Undying. Oh, Tavern Keeper. Tavern Keeper, huh? That's okay. We will not attack with the 4-3 in that case. I guess I should have taken my 4 damage. I didn't think about a kindly Tavern Keeper, but he would have healed it back anyway had I done that, so I'm not too worried. All right, we'll bank all 3 of our spell mana going into the Kindred turn. I assume. Ooh. I was gonna say I assume our opponent will play a Draklorn, and I kind of still think that's happening.
Come back next.
Shall we, dear wolf?
I'm ready, little lamb.
I'm ready, little lamb. I love the Kindred. The Kindred, by the way, are one of my all-time favorite champions from actual League of Legends, right? Nice. Very underplayed, not one you see very often, but the lore and art behind this card is so cool.
Its heart beats fast now.
It knows.
It knows.
Light the
All right, so we mark the Avaros and Sentry there, and then Kindred slate it for us. Nasus is already a 6/6, which is lovely. Pretty sure we're just gonna slap him down.
The cycle has continued for eons. We hunt, we kill.
And then
We start again. Now we could have just gone for like a glimpse on the open to guarantee that we marked Lysandra here, but I think playing the Nasus here achieves something very similar. Yeah, nice. Because unless my opponent can drop
See the Devastian
multiple
border
small
from here.
units,
All unmeasured.
all unmeasured. I could attack with Kindred as well, and like bluff the fact that I have like a Vile Feast or something. But if my opponent calls that bluff, that would be really, really bad for me, so I actually can't do that. And we'll see if he blocks it all. Nasus has Fearsome, so the only thing that can block Nasus is actually Trundle. The question is whether he blocks this with Trundle. And if he does, I'll probably glimpse it. Actually, there's no even need to do that.
You got a problem?
Actually, yes, there is. We need to glimpse it so that this gets marked, and then Kindred will level up. Also, we deal an extra damage with Nasus. Bunch of good stuff happens. Good things all around.
Never.
All right, we eat another 2/1.
the pulse fades away.
On to the next.
On to the next. And you'd think that Nasus would kind of struggle against, you know, a Lysandra Freljord style deck, a deck that doesn't give us anything to slay. You'd think would kind of be something that the Undying struggles with, but as you can see,
You sickle.
it's quite the opposite.
It's good to be the king.
This deck is easy prey for this one as long as you build it correctly. Now this Ice Pillar is annoying because it will always be the weakest unit and Kindred is always going to mark it. But it's nothing we can't handle. I'm going to start with a Hapless and keep mana open for our Vengeance here. We could just go for a straight Siphoning Strike onto this Trundle, which would be funny. But likely he'll have a Flash Freeze or something. I would prefer to just save mana for Vengeance onto the Trundle. I think that would be a smarter play. We'll see if he even bothers. He might not even like attack. For all we know. Okay. I don't mind that. I think we can pass here. Oh, I think we can pass here. Is this gonna pull Nasus? Okay.
Smashing.
Smashing.
One smack'll do.
Okay, so he's threatening me with 8 damage on the Trundle. I think we do. I think we do just Vengeance it. No sweat. The Spiderling is what's going to get marked by Kindred, which is not, you know, not ideal. Okay, so he's entombing the Trundle. Fair enough. So Trundle will be back. But Kindred still gets their buff. The Spiderling still dies. All that other stuff still happens. Trundle is the only thing that doesn't die from that. Lysandra is not leveled, which means she cannot block this Nasus.
This too shall end.
So this is looking like a pretty sweet open attack. And just like that, it's looking a little scary. Our opponent could have a Harsh Winds,
Brilliant.
right? To block these things. That would save them for another turn. But before long, we should be looking pretty. Ooh, a Vengeance. No. No. Now again, Flash Freeze is something our opponent could have here, but I'm willing to take the risk. Also, 3 Sisters will also work. That would take all my opponent's mana. If my opponent does have a Flash Freeze or something here, we'll Glimpse. Actually, even then, yeah, we just win. We just win.
They will.
Got him.
Oh, sisters.
Just like that.
There the chase ends.
More lie ahead.
More lie ahead. And so there you go. As you can see, Nasus is actually something that can really put a stopper. As much as Nasus, you know, as much as the memes say that Nasus is like the most disappointing Ascended and all that stuff, he really does have his uses, especially against big Freljord decks like that. Big Freljord decks sort of rely on being, you know, having their units be bigger than yours, and if you could just slap down a 10/10 for 6 mana, they sort of don't know what to do anymore. Like Trundle doesn't do well with a unit that's actually bigger than he is, right? It doesn't happen often. It's hard to get a unit that's bigger than Trundle, but Nasus is one. Nasus is one that exists. This is well, I say this is a lovely hand. This would be a fantastic hand if we weren't going up against Twisted Fate Fizz. And yet we are. Good old meta decks from last patch. You love to see it. You love to see it. I don't think we can keep Spirit Leech here, but we'll keep the rest. I don't think we can keep the Undying either, actually. I like Kindred. I do not like that Atrocity. This I do like. This is what we were looking for right here. Withering Wail. This is going to be very, 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 very important.
No.
I don't know why my opponent threw out the Shen emote at the beginning there. Maybe he's either got a really good hand or a really bad hand, right? Mr. Chomi. Maybe Komi. Sunlight Urchin. Interesting. That's not generally something you see out of this deck. Sometimes. I mean, sometimes they play Sunlight Urchin, but generally they don't. That's interesting. Now, what we don't have in this hand is anything that can deal with Twisted Fate, right? I was, for a time, running Grasp of the Undying instead of Withering Wail. But obviously, we aren't anymore.
I must get out of here.
Okay, we'll take our open attack. I assume my opponent will not want to block here. I guess we could have open passed. Open passing there could have been interesting as well, but I want my 1 damage. We can pass now. Yeah, we'll take that pass. Hey, and that can deal with Twisted Fate. Hey, there is actually something that can deal with Twisted Fate when he comes down. Very nice. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. Oh, a suit up. Well, that is rather bothersome. We'll skip that block. And I think now is actually a really good time to go for a glimpse beyond. Just because we don't have much else to do with this mana. We could, if we really need to, we could go for a Withering Wail here. Yeah, but now see, we don't need to anymore. We'll just go Cursed Keeper. And then we've spent our mana well enough. We can float the 3 and play Kindred on 5 with 3 spell mana. That seems pretty nice. And now Kindred gets to do Kindred things, right?
Shall we, dear wolf?
I'm ready, little lamb.
I'm ready, little lamb. The lore of the Kindred, by the way, is so deep and satisfying. The basic concept is that these are sort of, these two spirits, Kindred, Lamb and Wolf, make up the Kindred, and they're sort of literally death. They're sort of literally death on Runeterra.
Or played one.
Oh, he's going for gold card. He's going for the gold card. Which might just mean he doesn't want Kindred to attack, but more likely means Kindred is going to get hit by a Mystic Shot here, which is not ideal. Less than ideal, I would say.
All that glitters.
Its heart beats fast now.
It knows.
So we're going to attack if he... Oh, he doesn't block with anything at all. It's more important to kill this. By doing this, by killing this Poro, Kindred is going to mark that one. And now if my opponent has a Mystic Shot, he'll likely use it to save his Zonite, but he might not care. Okay. Unfortunately there, we weren't able to use the box to kill Twisted Fate, so we were going to have to find another way. Right now, Twisted Fate is the weakest unit. So as long as Kindred... Aha! Okay, that works as well. So this is a really bad order by my opponent, right? So my opponent kills Kindred here, and we can't stop that. You know, that's fine. I guess we could Atrocity them to kill Twisted Fate, but that seems a bit... That seems a tad aggressive. We're just gonna replay Kindred.
Never won.
Without the other.
And Twisted Fate is still the weakest unit, right? So we skip this block. We kill our own unit with Rite of Calling, thus marking Twisted Fate, and hopefully, you know, Twisted Fate will die at the end of the round to Kindred. Hopefully. But yeah, essentially Kindred are like literally the Grim Reaper, and everyone on Runeterra either flees death or, you know, deals with death.
Stacking the odds.
Like every person is either someone who has accepted their death or someone who runs away from death and fights for life. And if you're someone who fights for life, Wolf will hunt you down and kill you. But if you're someone who has accepted death, the Lamb will sort of just put an arrow through your heart more gently, right? More of a humane death. And I think that's super fun and interesting, and that's so deep and introspective and exactly the kind of thing I like. So we could do an open attack here, and our opponent would likely have to lose his 4/4, but I'd rather wait for our opponent to play something else that Kindred can mark. My opponent also does have 3 fleeting cards in hand from their pick a card, so honestly a pass here Just a straight up pass could be okay. I kind of want to slap down the Nasus. I also kind of want to keep open mana for the box. I think keeping mana open for the box this turn is wise. My opponent has a bunch of fleeting cards. If any of them are like Burblefish and stuff, he'll need to play them, and then we can just box them all away afterwards. So I think I'm actually going to start with the Curse Keeper.
We weren't expecting callers.
Okay. Opponent goes for a Rummage. And discards a stress. Oh, double stress testing. Oh, wow. He discarded double stress testing. Now he has the same number. He still is, well, probably 3-ish fleeting cards, right?
I'm always up for a
Ah. Oh, he goes for gold card. Interesting.
dead in their tracks.
Its heart beats fast now.
It knows.
All right, so now we'll take our attack. I'm operating under the assumption right now that Lamb is, or that Kindred is not going to survive the turn. So we shouldn't rely on Kindred's mark, because if Kindred marks something and then that something dies, you get nothing, right? The mark goes away, or that something dies to not you, right? If they kill it themselves, or if Kindred dies, the mark goes away, right? So if we play Kindred, if we like kill our own thing, Twisted Fate gets the mark, that's great. But if Kindred dies, he doesn't die, right? Kindred have to be the one to kill him. So we'll threaten him now. We'll put the mark on Twisted Fate and force our opponent to kill Kindred. And when they fail, you know, and when they do, we'll just box to get rid of their stuff. Alternatively, if they killed Cursed Keeper, I mean, why would you kill Cursed Keeper when you could just kill Kindred? Is beyond me. But if they choose to, like, if they have like a Death Ray in their hand, right? Then that's fine. We'll still just box them. Although I would like to wait, if he has like another Burblefish or something, I'd like to wait as long as possible.
The path they traveled was one almost walked
Do they know that where we're going?
They will. Same place that all
Okay, that was a...
paths lead
Okay.
to an end.
You should try...
We were there.
Yes, we were.
That's the other thing about Kindred, is they like to tell long stories. Long stories. Try not to talk over yourselves, guys. So this guy... He Mystic Shotted my face instead of Kindred. And now he's at 1 mana, and he's okay with ending it around and losing Twisted Fate, which can only mean one thing. He's trying to burn me down, and he's got like burn cards in his hand, like more...
Patience.
A motionless sea under a pale moon.
Sorry, I love listening to them. Which means he's got like more like get excited and stuff in his hand. So I think we just take our Withering Wail, spend our mana to heal up, kill that, and then Twisted Fate dies because he's only got 1 mana and there's nothing he can do about it.
Their pulse fades away.
On to the next.
I'm out.
All right, so 2 TFs down. And this time we have a 10-10 Nasus again, and this time we do have the ability to play Nasus and the box, which I think is probably what he'll probably like flood the board here, right? We can actually just pass. I could slap down Nasus and like threaten him a bunch,
Need a hand? Can't say no to Fizz.
and I think there's no reason not to.
I've seen the masks of the Kindred before.
All things see us on their periphery.
What do we got? But yeah, I imagine he's gonna play a couple more elusives, and then we're just gonna get mad value out of this box. Ooh, concurrent timelines. Okay. Is that it? Is that all you got? Oh. All right. Box time. This does not target. The box, by the way, does not target anything, so Fizz cannot make it go away with a spell. This marks the last enemy unit standing, and then Kindred kills it for free, and obviously we look in a pretty commanding position. We are actually a little close to death, but we do have Atrocity in our hand, so looks good. Looks good to me.
It's fast now.
It knows.
It knows.
This too shall end.
And there we go. And I'll show him that I in fact had this as well. He was super dead. But there you go. There you go. We just beat the best deck in the game, you know.
There the chase ends.
More lie ahead.
The Twisted Fate Fizz, obviously, best deck in the game right now. And I say that unironically, or at least it was before Shurima hit. It was obviously tier 1. Did a great job at the seasonal tournament. Had a lot of showing. Everyone was either banning it or targeting it or playing around it, you know. Best deck in the game. We just beat it quite handily, I'd say. So, best, you know, new best deck confirmed? No, probably not. Probably not. I think that guy had a bad hand, but we still beat him, and that counts as a win in my book. But yeah, there you go. Undying with Kindred and that's the deck right there. I hope you guys enjoyed today's games. Let me know what you liked, what you didn't like, what type of decks you'd like to see me build in the future. Any questions you have about the new cards, things like that. And yeah, come join me on my Twitch stream. I stream every day, Monday through Friday, starting at 9 a.m. and usually going till about 2 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Come hang out, and I will see you guys in the next video.